Hi, hello, this is Farid from FKP Institute of AI. Let's look into data science introduction part 3. Let me go to the slide to continue from there. Okay. In this part, we'll try to cover a type of machine learning and the components of machine learning, so that we'll get a very good understanding on what machine learning is. Okay, and finally, if time persists, if video is not too long, so we will summarize the things and we'll get the meaning of what is data science and how it is different from AI. Okay, let's quickly go to our topic in the subject. Okay, by this time you will come. I think you might have assumed why there are types of machine learning, right? Because problems are different. That's why algorithms are different, right? Let's see what are the problems, what type of machine learning algorithm to be used. Okay, yeah, let's start. There are 3 types of machine learning algorithms are there. One is supervised learning, and second one unsupervised learning, third one is reinforcement learning. Supervised learning, the name itself is telling somebody supervising it. If you predict something, somebody are cross verifying whether the prediction is correct or not with the actual data. Okay, so in the exercises, in the tasks where we have data to cross verify what we have predicted, then though the algorithms which are using to develop those kind of tasks, we call them as supervised learning algorithms. Okay, now regression and classification, these two comes under supervised learning. Regression in the sense I told you, right? The other alternative name of regression is planning or predicting something. Okay, so what we'll do, suppose I have a set of data. I am dividing into 2 pieces, like in 80-20 in proportion. 80% of data I will use to train the model, and then I will give these 20% of data to predict, and I already know the result of it, right? Because it is already happened data. I have its result also. Let the machine predict something, predict on its own. So it predicts when I apply a regression algorithm. Then I will compare the result of the regression algorithm and what is the actual I have in my hand. Then I will find out how accurate my system is predicting. Okay, now let's go to the classification. Classification is also a supervised learning model. Here also I have something to cross verify. Think that I have given a lot of features. I don't know how many various features will be there for the blood cell, fat cell, tumor cell or cancer cell. I fed like all the data as an input to a classification model. In the same proportion, 80% of data I have you as an input to train up to it gets an idea. Okay, blood cells should look like this, and fat cell should look like this. So 80% of data I use to train, and 20% I will keep. Once system gets trained, what I do, I will use that 20% of data to predict. Then once it gives the predictions for that 20%, I will cross verify. Okay, this particular record, here it is a blood cell, whether it has given does it classifies it as a blood cell or something else. So that way I can cross verify and I can make sure that okay, my model is working well. And otherwise I can say like, so 90% my model is giving right result, or 85% my machine is giving my machine is giving right predictions, and 80% it is classifying well, right? So regression, let's again spell what algorithms we have. For regression we have linear regression and polynomial regression. For classification we have decision tree, random forest, AdaBoost, XGBoost, SVM, K nearest neighbor, and naive Bayes. These are all the algorithms we have for classification. And there are in that we have random forest, support vector machines, meaning like SVM, and we have naive Bayes, KNN, and AdaBoost, XGBoost. These also performs the regression task. Okay, we will see like how the classifiers performs even regression tasks. Okay, going forward in the course. But if anybody asks you, you need to answer this way. What are the regression algorithms? Okay, we have two. One is linear regression, the second one is polynomial regression. If anybody asks, what is the classification algorithms? So you need to say, yeah, decision trees, random forest, support vector machines, K nearest neighbor, and naive Bayes. Okay, so these are all the classification algorithms. So what are the algorithms which can do both regression and classification? Then you need to start from the random forest, AdaBoost, XGBoost, and KNN, and you have naive Bayes. So all these algorithms can perform like both the tasks. Okay, so in this boosting algorithms we call like AdaBoost, XGBoost. Though are like though are very recent in the supervised learning. They works very good and they gives a lot of accuracy. Okay, they are very good in predicting the things compared to other algorithms. But whenever you are planning to make a model, you need to test. You need to test which model is giving right predictions to your the data which you are feeding. All right. Next go to unsupervised learning. So unsupervised learning solves the problems where you don't have data to cross verify. Okay, so like we have two kinds of problems, and among them one we have already discussed, that is clustering, grouping data. So when we are taking the meaning of clustering, we have taken an example of a kid separating color blocks. Okay, but actually real world problems are difficult than that, right? So one block is having a percentage of different colors. Okay, some block is filling with 25% of blue, some 10% of green, something like that. It has messy. It has multicolor. But you need to find out somehow, these blocks are having more blue color. These blocks are having red color more. These blocks are having green color more or yellow color more. So likewise, so here the colors I am saying the number of features. just replace colors with features. Okay, suppose I want to do a customer segmentation. So one customer will have a lot of features, right? His age, his how much he has spent in last 10 visits, from when he started coming to our store, what kind of products he is buying, whether he has a family, how many kids he has, whether he has a loyalty card or not, how many times he has availed our combo offers. So, we have a lot of features like this. So, based on the similarities among these features and within these features, our algorithm makes the clusters, so that we can target a segment of the customer and improve our business by giving some offer to them and by making some different bundle offers for them, right? So using that we can retain the customers. Wherever we find some wherever we can target on any group of customers. So we don't know how many clusters we should make, but it's a business interest. Okay, I want to make 6 clusters among my customers. So what algorithm will do? It will make 6 clusters based on the features they have. I don't have anything to cross verify, why this particular customer has gone to this particular fall into this particular cluster. The algorithm did it. It has seen the features and it finds the properties of this customer and the properties of other customers which are in the same cluster having almost closer properties. Maybe they belong to the same age group or they are buying similar products, right? So next, go to the association. Even association, we never told, so far we did not discuss what algorithm helps for the association. This is the first time we are discussing about the association. Association runs an algorithm called a priori. This algorithm makes the association. The name itself specifying relate, any associate. Okay, if I buy a Lux product, I have bought some Lux soaps from the e-com website like Amazon or Flipkart, or it can be Grofers. Next time when I come to that website or to that app, it will show me Lux body wash or flavors of different soaps from the company which manufactures Lux product, right? What's happening here, based on my purchasing habits, the items I purchase, internally the algorithm is relating the similar products and bringing it up whenever I log in next time. So that helps me, or that helps them to quickly capture the customer interest and to make money out of the customer's interest. Got it? This is all about unsupervised learning. So, again, let's respell. So, the algorithms we use generally for clustering are k-mean, fuzzy, and hierarchical clustering algorithm. Now, third one is reinforcement learning. One secret, layman who doesn't have much idea about AI so far, they think that reinforcement learning itself is artificial intelligence, because the problems we solve in this mode of learning resembles a robot, right? In case of supervised learning, we have the data, historical data, to find the patterns and to plan on top of it after learning after after processing the training data and predictions. We have the data, right? In supervised learning, we have the historical data and we have test data to cross verify. In case of unsupervised learning, we have the data already, historical data. We don't have something to cross verify, but okay, algorithm is doing its work. But in case of reinforcement learning, we don't have data at all. Here we are working with real-time data, right? In our movies, you see robots works with real time. Even humans work with real-time data. Okay, what reinforcement learning? Reinforcement learning based on reward-based algorithms. Reward-based, just underline it, reward-based. What does it mean? In a given environment, the machine need to understand all the scenarios and respond accordingly. Example, chess game I told you previously, when we were discussing about artificial intelligence in part number 1, chess game. We don't have history data, even though if we have, it's useless, right? So our next step is entirely depends on what is the previous move happened on the board, right? So reinforcement learning, it's almost kind of learning which almost simulates how the human learn. Suppose when you are a kid, when you do something good, your dad used to give some chocolates to make you happy and to reward you so that you will do something more better than what you did previously. So reinforcement learning happens that way. It is a reward based algorithms. It helps a lot in case of self-driving cars and in robotics and a lot of optimization stuff. Engineering optimizations, there are a lot of applications. Okay, let's spell what algorithms are available to perform reinforcement learning. Okay, so it has two algorithms basically. One is hidden Markov models and the other one is Q-learning. These are the two famous algorithms helps in the reinforcement learning. Okay, let's recall. What is reinforcement learning? Reinforcement learning happens through reward-based algorithms because there is no historical data to learn something. How to respond is purely dependent upon the previous step. Example, if I want to predict tomorrow's weather, I will depend only on today's weather, right? If it is sunny today and tomorrow also almost 80% sunny, it won't go to snow, right, immediately. So these reinforcement learning algorithms are purely dependent on the probabilistic algorithms. Okay, all right. Now let's go to next topic, components of machine learning. So this is very important because if you start here now, you are going to see these going forward throughout the course, and I'm sure that you will never forget throughout your life. There are 5 components in machine learning algorithm. What are those? The first one is data. Data should be there. Data should be there in all kind of learning. Maybe this data you are getting from the data warehouse, or it can be from external sources. Okay, and the second one is model. You need to choose the model. Before finalizing the model, you need to do experiment with similar models. Example, I want to classify something. I have a classification problem. I cannot just blindly, okay, decision tree algorithm is very easy. Okay, I will do it. Yeah, it is classifying well. No, it's not like that. You need to experiment with a lot of algorithms, starting from random forest to advanced classifiers like boosting algorithms, like AdaBoost and XGBoost. Out of these, you need to choose the algorithm which is giving good accuracy over all other models. So there are automatic tools. Don't worry, like how to compare the result of the models. If I do experiment, how can I decide? There are automatic tools. They help you. Got it? Up. Next. So once you choose the basically like model is one important component. Then the third one is objective function. So what is objective function? Objective function, the name here, see, function. Function meaning it's a mathematical function actually. It's a mathematical function. How I can say like my predictions are doing well? When I cross verify predictions with the actual data. I told you, right, like I will use only 20%, 80% to train and 20% to test it. Once I get the predictions for the 20%, I have the actual label, actual data with me. I will just compare, and that minus this, if I get 0, wow, my algorithm is superb. If it is not 0, the difference is more between my prediction and what the actual data is. What I will do? I will increase more training data. I will add more in training data. I will bring some new data and I will add. Then I will start. Again I will train. Then again I will predict. So I feel good whenever the difference between predictions and actual is going less. That is called loss. That function is called loss. Prediction, suppose think that y hat minus actual is y. Y hat minus y, if it is going some bigger number to smaller number, meaning my model is doing well. That function we call it as loss function. So here the point to note is there for every type of problem we have a loss function defined. So in case of classification, in case of regression, we have a loss function. If the value of the loss function is going down, your model accuracy will automatically grow. In case of reinforcement learning, it is bit reverse. Because it works with the rewards algorithm. If your model gets bigger reward, meaning your model is working well. You are understanding, right? Okay. The fourth component is objective function. Objective function. So, objective function is, the name itself is specifying this is the objective of my algorithm. Minimize the loss. That is my objective of this algorithm. In case of reinforcement learning, increase the value of reward. That's why the name itself is defining objective function. Now let's go to point number 4. It is optimization function. We call it as a gradient function. So objective function defines how fast you need to learn. I mean, how fast model have to learn. If the learning is slow, what happens? It will take lot of time to get trained. Suppose a person, he failed multiple times in his 10th standard. His goal is he want to be an engineer, and he failed again in inter first year, and again he failed in second year. See, it is a slow movement actually, right? So it will take lot of time to attain his to get his BTech certificate. Right? So the learning should be meaningful. I mean, it should be feasible in the environment we are dealing with. The other end, okay, let me learn very fast. If you learn very fast, what happens? You will end up with almost no learning. Can I tell you an example? A guy who is studying 9th standard and you know how to read the books, and he want to learn very fast. So he has taken engineering textbooks and he started reading them. He can read the books, but he cannot get the actual point. He cannot get the actual point. He missed the point. What the engineering formula tells, he don't know, but he will read. Meaning he is reading, he is feeling that he is learning, but he is missing the point. That way it works. Optimization function should be with a feasible speed. Our learning algorithm should learn. The learning rate we call. Learning rate should be feasible. Okay, feasible. To up to it. The learning rate will be like bigger at the beginning of the training, and slowly it will go to it will be minimized because it need to carefully go to the point where we get loss 0 or almost 0. Our learning should stop there. Our learning should stop there. So that's why the learning rate, alternative name is optimization function, should be feasible during our training process. It should not be less because training take lot of time. It should not be big because it will miss the point. Okay. So the alternative name of optimization function is gradient descent. It is also a mathematical formula. I am telling these components, I am trying to explain these components in layman language. Okay. Now the fifth one is activation function. Okay. Activation function, what it will do in deep learning, especially in deep learning. Of course, when we are doing traditional machine learning, this concept will never come, activation function. But when we are dealing with non-linear data, when we are dealing with images, when we are working with sequence text, sequential data, sequence data, we will get activation function. You know that, right? Like we'll get when we work with images, videos, or any visual visual data, we train the models with the deep learning, right? So that's why this activation function concept comes when you are going through, when we are discussing deep learning. So activation function exists in every node. Every node. I mean, you remember, right? Deep learning. I mean that deep learning networks. I mean, neural networks have lot of neurons. They do certain function, they perform certain function, right, specific to the task. I mean, we don't know, specific to the problem in hand. And the data comes to activation function. What activation function does? It normalizes the output. It normalizes the output, and so that it will be, it makes the data to, I mean, it makes the data the values to small number, so that computation happens very faster. I know you did not understand. Let me say again. So activation function helps to normalize the output of a function, which is specific to that problem in hand. Okay, I'll give a, very layman example. I have customer age 70. How much he has purchased? He spent like 50,000 at our store. If you don't normalize this data, what happens? Models will yield, it gives some more importance to the how much he has spent in the store, because it is a big number, 50,000. Age 70, which is big number, that one is bigger number, and model starts giving more priority to that feature. No, it should not be like that. We should bring all the data, the data of all the features, like his age, how many products he bought, what is the quantity of each product, and how much is the total bill, okay, how many times he visit our store in a month period. All these numbers are in a different scale actually by nature. So activation function normalizes it, meaning it brings all the numbers in the scale of -1 to 1. There is a logarithm function. If you apply the log on any number, it falls between 0 to 1. I mean, sorry, -1 to 1. If you want, you just try. You take the calculator and you just try. Have a big number and apply the log. So it will fall into the small scale. It fall into the small scale, 0 to 1 or -1 to 1. So if all the features are on the same scale, models will give the same priority to all the features. Since the numbers came from 50,000 to on the scale of 0 to 1 or -1 to 1, computing small numbers will be faster, right? If I ask you 2 into 2, you will say immediately 4. If I say 27 into 42, you will think your answer will be delayed. Why you said 2 into 2? Same mechanism you are going to use, right, for 27 into 42. Because it is a small number, the same logic here. So that's why activation function exists in deep learning model to normalize the output of a specific problem, specific functions, and to to make computation easier. One shot, two birds. Activation function, it helps in normalizing the feature values, and it helps in computing. It helps in to make computation faster, right? Now let's go to the summarization session. Now the time has came to summarize what is data science and how it is different from AI. AI, I think we have got a very good idea now. AI is the implementation of predictive models to forecast future events. It can be, it can be through regression, it can be through, it can be through time series, it can be through NLP, it can be through, what? It can be through image recognitions, it can be through reinforcement learning. So, something we are predicting into the future, and meaning all about more AI is implementation of predictive models for the future events is called AI. Data science is a broad field. So, what more data science has? So, data science is a combined process, or you can say it has lot of processes involving data pre-processing, analyze the data, whatever the data you have, analyzing it, visualizing it, and you need to remove the features which does not help to your model, and you need to make sure we need to have enough data. Right? What I am trying to say is data science has a lot of steps which related to data pre-processing, exploratory analysis is also part of data science, meaning like understanding your data, and like pre-processing in the sense, okay, suppose if some values are not available, what will you do? And you have less data for some of the labels. Right? So, all these steps will be involved in the data science. So, if somebody says, okay, in my company, in our company we have data science established, meaning they have establishment of pre-processing teams, data pre-processing teams, we call them, we can call like a feature engineering team, and then for predictions, actually we have data scientists. Okay, sometimes data scientist meaning he have to do feature engineering, any pre-processing of the data, and as well as implement the predictive models. Okay, so I think you like this video, and let me go over the other slides I have in this presentation. Oh, okay, there is an important thing. So, basically to perform all these algorithms, do I need to write complex programs? Actually not, because there are lot of packages which are implemented on top of Python, like you are already seeing on the screen. To perform the statistics, we have stats models, and to implement the engineering formulas, we have SciPy. This is SciPy. Okay, this is another module. And to visualize the correlations between your data, to visualize your predictions, and you have very handy visualization packages. Plot, for example, like Plotly, Matplotlib, even Pandas has a visualization functions, and machine learning algorithms, like to implement machine learning algorithms, like your machines need to perform a lot of calculations, right? It need to calculate, it need to perform a lot of array functions, like matrix multiplications, and need to do a lot of calculations. So, for all that we have a NumPy package. It is there to perform the array calculations, I mean array computations. And Pandas helps us with the data structures, like a table kind of data structure we have that we call data frame, we have list, we have dictionary, okay, we have series. So this is for storage of the data we generally use in machine learning, and NumPy for calculations, and here it is. So how can I implement the models? Okay, I mean pandas is good for to store my whatever the data I am getting into the model, and sorry, pandas is enough to to save the data which I am reading from the external sources to perform. To use that for predictions, and NumPy is there to perform the computations, and Plotly for there are visualization packages and statistics. But how can I implement linear regression? Do I need to really make the program, do the coding, lot of coding here? No, don't worry actually. So there are machine learning packages which are even developed on Python. So we have scikit-learn. We have here scikit-learn. This is a very it's a very rich library to implement all the models what we have discussed, like linear regression, polynomial regression. Okay, don't worry about if you don't understand, if you don't know what is polynomial regression, like in the forthcoming classes. So I will clearly explain what is polynomial regression. And we have random forest, decision trees, AdaBoost, XGBoost, a lot of algorithms. For classifications, for clustering, even for hidden Markov models and Q-learning. Like for all these, we have. Scikit-learn has a rich function, a lot of functions, to make our tasks easy. And this is called Keras, and this is a TensorFlow. TensorFlow, actually this is from Google. This TensorFlow helps to work with deep learning. So whatever, and Keras is implemented on top of TensorFlow. It is very easy. Working with Keras is very easy. Using Keras, it's very easy. So easily we can implement deep learning networks, deep neural networks we can implement. Okay, so and TensorFlow we use, which difficult to implement with Keras. If you need some more customizations than what the functions this particular Keras API has, you need to go with TensorFlow. And there is a NLTK. This is a Python module that helps in NLP. And then we have OpenAI. OpenAI is a rich library which has functions to perform reinforcement learning. And we have OpenCV Gym, we call OpenCV. Okay, so OpenCV is again implemented on Python, and it helps us a lot of functions which are required to perform the computer vision related tasks, and Viola-Zone algorithms and mean shift algorithms. You can implement them very easily using like OpenCV module. Okay, so let's see what other slides I have here. Okay, so once basically like you use all these like to implement your algorithms, like your algorithm should run, need to run on some platforms, right? So you can use cloud based platforms nowadays. Many companies are opting it, and sometimes like many companies like don't go with that, and they don't want to invest. They want to run on a virtual Python environment. That we'll see in the course, like how to do that. Okay, so GCP, Google Cloud has their ML framework, and Microsoft Azure has their own ML framework, and Amazon is having a SageMaker for to perform the ML tasks and schedule it on the Dockers. Okay, or they have their own schedulers. So In this course, we are going to learn, like, from us. If you are interested to take a course from us, we are going to teach you GCP, I mean Google Cloud Platform, ML engine. So where you can put your machine learning algorithms, and where you can implement the algorithms on this platform, on Google platform, and we'll show you how to run your machine learning platforms in a Python virtual environment. Right. Let's see what slides I have. So quick summary. So in these sessions, you came to know, we have started with zero knowledge on what is data science and what is AI. And we can, let's summarize quickly. So we have seen who is statistician, what is data mining, what is predictive analytics, what is descriptive analytics, what is data warehousing, and what is who is a business analyst, why he is coming to us all the time, right? And we have started with artificial intelligence. Initially, we did not believe that machines learn. Artificial intelligence, meaning like developing human intelligence in machines. Initially, we did not believe. After looking at the branches the AI has, like machine learning, deep learning, neural net, NLP, time series forecasting, computer vision, we came to conclusion that machines, really artificial intelligence is a subject which helps implementing the human intelligence in the machines, right? We concluded at the end, right? So after that, we start basically like what we have discussed. We have discussed like type of machine learning, okay, type of machine learning, and then component of machine learning. In the component of machine learning, like we know that there are 5 ingredients to make a ML algorithm. So we should have the data, and we should have a model, and we should have an objective function, optimization function. In deep learning, we should have activation function. Okay, that's all summary, and we have seen like what packages, what Python packages we are using throughout this course, and there are so many other packages I did not show here because there are a lot more. Okay. And those are small packages, and they will be very handy to perform some kind of functions. Okay, so it is very interesting course, and it's very interesting field to work because it's a futuristic course actually, and it's like from our marketing end, we are offering some other course along with other than this data science and AI, like Snowflake. It is dominating analytical database. It has beaten many of the products. From a very very large company products were were not in competition with Snowflake. So it's very nice analytical data warehousing platform. And the other course we are offering is Google Analytics. Okay, it's again a futuristic course. Okay, so if you really want to learn training, if you want to take the training from us, we have given the phone number here, and you can call up and you can. Yeah. So keep smiling and happy learning. Stay tuned. Thank you.